Fear is the path to the dark side. The Supreme Court today, they ruled in a 5-votes-to-4 decision that corporations can now spend as much as they want on political campaigns. In other words, if Exxon or Dow wants to support a candidate, they can give him or her as much money as they want, which I can't see that having any negative repercussions, can you? Corporations are not people, and if they were people, they'd be real jerks.
In a world where the definition of person was constantly being expanded,
this is my Oldsmobile. It has rights.
A strange and alien life form threatened to take over America. Coming soon, the Supreme Court presents Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Incorporated, LLC.
Hey, neighbor.
Welcome to McDonald's. Can I take your order?
It's 2010, and the human race is being replaced by corporations. People all over America are waking up to find out that their friends and neighbors were being taken over by faceless corporate entities.
Morning, Ted.
Please don't call me Ted. My name is Charles. Charles Schwab.
They came from Wall Street, validated by a Supreme Court decision that gave the rights of personhood to corporations. They soon began blending in.
Hey, you must be the new guy next door. You from around here?
Well, I'll be living here, yeah, but I'm headquartered at a mail drop in the Cayman Islands.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Incorporated, LLC, with all the rights of human beings and unlimited resources. Now, no one can stop them from buying elections. Coming this summer, there's just one thing wrong with the new neighbors. They're incorporated.
Very concerned about the corporate excessive influence over our government, going back decades, the robber barons, the late 19th century. And I don't think we've ever seen anything as bad as this.
In a 5-4 ruling, a deeply divided Supreme Court said the ban on corporate spending violated First Amendment guarantees of free speech. The ruling demolished the foundation of campaign finance laws, going back to Teddy Roosevelt's days, that restricted spending by corporations and unions.
This is one of the most dangerous, arrogant, disgusting, corporatist, against the people, raping of the intent of the Constitution and the specific words of the founders that I have ever seen since the Dred Scott decision, really. I mean, you know, this is one of those. This is one of those that is so poisonous and so detrimental to the political discourse and good governance that there's no way not to be completely sickened by it. Obama has already put out a statement, and I was waiting for it. He said, quote, "With its ruling today, the Supreme Court has given a green light to a new stampede of special interest money in our politics. It is a major victory for big oil, Wall Street banks, health insurance companies, and the other powerful interests that marshal their power every day in Washington to drown out the voices of everyday Americans. That's why I'm instructing my administration to get to work immediately with Congress on this issue. We're going to talk with bipartisan congressional leaders to develop a forceful response to this decision." This decision needs a forceful response.
So the key here is a constitutional amendment, if I may add, that decides that the sovereignty of the people has to be supreme over the power of corporations.
I think this is a spectacular opportunity to educate the public that corporations were never chartered by government to be our masters. They were chartered to be our servants. And any of you listening who want detail on this, you can read one of my favorite books, Unequal Protection, by Tom Hartman, your radio show host. And is it ever readable? Is how can an artificial entity, we're not talking about corporate employees here, the corporation itself, Pfizer, Citigroup, Bank of America, General Motors, how can a corporation have all the rights under our Constitution that human beings have, plus all the privileges and immunities that corporations have that you folks out there can never have, even if you become billionaires? And so there is no way you can have unequal protection between you and Exxon, or you and Pfizer, or you and U.S. Steel. It's impossible. And that's why our democracy is being downgraded. That's why wages are falling, household incomes are falling, poverty is increasing, jobs are being lost to communist China and other regimes abroad. All these things flow from the crescendo of power that the right-wing judges, the corporate judges, have been giving over the decades to corporations to sway, buy, rent, intimidate elected officials or candidates for office.
Yeah. In fact, I'll just let me give you a preview. We're talking with Ralph Nader. The first four sentences of the new edition of Unequal Protection. On September 2nd, 2009, the transnational pharmaceutical giant Pfizer pled guilty to multiple criminal felonies. They had been marketing drugs in a way that almost certainly led to the death of people, and definitely led physicians to prescribe and patients to use pharmaceuticals in ways they were not intended. Because Pfizer is a corporation, a legal abstraction really, it couldn't go to jail like fraudster Bernie Madoff or killer John Dillinger. Instead, it paid a $1.2 billion criminal fine to the U.S. government, the biggest in history, as well as a $1 billion civil fine. And none of its executives, decision makers, stockholders, owners, or employees saw even 5 minutes of the inside of a jail.
So hold on. So you're telling me that Bayer knew that this drug was infected with the AIDS virus, they yanked it from the market in America, and then they dumped it in markets overseas?
They had to figure out a way, Joe, to make a profit on a product that they could not sell in America. So they made a huge profit. They dropped the product in Japan, Spain, and France. By the way, Joe, government officials in France that allowed that to happen actually had to go to prison for it. In America, not one corporate executive for this company has been indicted or even criminally investigated by our Justice Department.
Why not? You're telling me that these people that dumped this AIDS-tainted blood in foreign countries, who killed children, have not been taken to task in the United States?
It's worse than that. The U.S. government allowed it to happen. The FDA allowed this to happen. And now the government is completely looking the other way. Thousands of innocent hemophiliacs have died from the AIDS virus. And not only they're dying, their family members are dying because they're becoming infected with the disease. This company knew absolutely that they had a problem with the product. They knew that it was infected with AIDS. They dumped it because they wanted to turn this disaster into a profit. Americans were dying from the product before it was pulled off the market. The only reason it was pulled off the market is because lawyers found the documents and showed it to the government, and finally the government said, you can't sell it here, but then the government allowed them to dump it in Spain, France, and Japan.
That's amazing. That's just amazing.
Well,
I want to read to you what the New York Times said, and this is an investigation that they also did, and they said the federal government was part of the problem. While the Food and Drug Administration told the company not to ship the drugs overseas, the man responsible for the drug supply, quote, asked that the issue be quietly solved without alerting the Congress, the medical community, and the public.
Now, nobody knows about this, but everybody knows that Martha Stewart in 2004 was convicted of lying to investigators about her sale of stock in another pharmaceutical company.
Right.
I mean, totally different standards for a corporation and for people.
Yeah, I mean, what if your neighbor poured pollution into your backyard? You know, all kinds of debris, stuff in the air your kids were breathing, and you could go after that neighbor and get the prosecutor to prosecute that neighbor, and if the courts judge guilty, that neighbor goes to jail, except if that neighbor is a corporation.
Right.
And, of course, I don't know many people who pollute as much as a corporation or industries. So we really have to get down to this, folks. This is town meeting time. This is gathering in living rooms time. This is becoming educated about how these corporations, over the course of our history, were first chartered on a tight leash by legislatures like in Massachusetts and Connecticut during the early textile industry era. And then they began getting away from the legislative charter, away from limited terms, and before you know it, they are dominating our political economy and putting our democracy into the ground. And you're paying for it as a worker, taxpayer, consumer, and investor.
Avoid the comfortable idea that the mere form of government can of itself safeguard a nation against despotism. Germany, under President Hindenburg, was a republic. And yet in this republic, an aggressive despotism took root and flourished.
Turn them off!
This is a theater of the absurd, my friends. This is the theater of the absurd.